Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerrod. Happy to be here.
So I'm Jerrod Ferguson, Vice President and Certified Financial Planner at Vance Wealth. Today, I'm joined by Steve Lujan, also known as the Medicare Man, and we're actually going to give the Social Security and Medicare presentation. We did this about a year ago, and so it was well attended. And obviously, these two topics are so intertwined that it just makes sense to talk about them both at the same time. So, Steve, thanks for joining us again today.
Thank you for having me back, Jerrod.
So I know we have a lot of clients on the call or on the webinar. I know there's a lot of non-clients as well. And so for those who don't know me, again, Jerrod at Vance Wealth, I've been here for just over 15 years. And so for the clients that know me, probably know my story. And so the reason I became a financial advisor was mostly because my parents became clients of Vance Wealth back in 2007. I got to meet John through that relationship and ended up becoming an intern back in 2008. I really saw the power of good financial planning. So I think when my parents joined Vance Wealth, they wanted to do certain things, and I didn't think it was possible. And so I think based off the good planning that John had completed, it took about 5 years, but they were able to realize a lot of their financial goals and now are retired. So, I wanted to do that for the clients that I work with. And so, 15 years later, here I am. And I know, Steve, I know your why, right, is later in the presentation, but maybe you can just give us a quick background on who you are.
Sure. Thank you, Jerrod. Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Steve Lujan. I'm essentially an independent health insurance broker, founder of Help Me Medicare Man. And what I do is help folks who are turning 65 transition into Medicare, and also help folks who are over the age of 65 and retiring. I'm licensed to help folks with their formal Medicare planning in 14 states.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And I know after the end, we'll have some offers just for some complimentary consultations. But I know last year we had sent people Steve's way as part of the follow-up, and he was able to take good care of them. So we'll do that. Housekeeping items, I always forget these, so I'm glad I remembered. If you want to ask a question, it's not going to bother us. You can ask it in the chat feature and actually type your question out. I think what happened last year was some questions were too specific or, this is my specific scenario. We had to address those later via email or a short phone call. So don't be afraid to ask questions as we go. We'll have a Q&A chance at the end as well. So we'll kind of help moderate that throughout the presentation. So just in terms of an outline for today, I'm obviously talking about the Social Security update, when and how to start receiving it. Taking it early, is it worth it? What consideration should you be aware of? And will your Social Security benefits be reduced, right? The million-dollar question is Social Security going bankrupt. And Steve's going to cover original Medicare, understanding the many windows to sign up for Medicare and why everyone needs additional private insurance in addition to Medicare. So people are living longer, right? That's a fact. And I think because of this needs to be taken into consideration when people are deciding when to take Social Security. So, if you look at the couples age 65, one person has a 50% chance of living to 93, one person has a 25% chance to living to 98. I mean, so when you look at a couple age 65, one of you is likely going to make it till age 90. And so that, I think, should be factored in to deciding, do you take Social Security early? Do you wait till your full retirement age? Do you actually wait until potentially a later date like age 70. So, you look on the right, the Social Security was signed into law by President Roosevelt back in 1935. The average life expectancy for men or males were 60 and 64 for women. So when you look at setting up a pension system or the Social Security system up for success, it's you make things eligible, income eligible when people are expected to die, right? And so clearly over the last 90 years, technology is continuing to improve it, which has allowed people to live longer. So, I think that is a big consideration that some people are not paying as much attention to. And that's because people are still collecting early, right? Even though people are living longer, 65% of current collectors of Social Security are collecting permanently reduced benefits. and only 35% either waited till their full retirement age or actually beyond that, somewhere between their full retirement age and age 70. Over 2.2 million people over age 90 are collecting benefits, and about 72,000 over age 100, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, we had a couple clients make it to 99 or 100. Last year, I think was maybe 102. I mean, so people are living a lot longer. And I think a lot of concerns typically are, running out of money. I think living longer or outliving your money is a bigger concern in our mind. So considerations for collecting early, obviously, do you have longevity in your family? Do you have a spouse? And what's the age gap? And are you currently working? So, that's another one that people sometimes will say, well, when I'm first available, I want to start collecting even if I'm working. Social Security was put into place to supplement retirement income. It wasn't actually put into place to pay for everything in retirement. So, there is some considerations that if you're working before full retirement age, I have on the next slide, it will show you the impact of that. But the Social Security Administration really wants people to be retired to begin collecting. And that's because of this, right? There's an earnings test. So the 2023 test, if you're under your full retirement age, if you earn $21,240 or above, $1 for every $2 of earnings is withheld. And same thing with the year you reach your full retirement age, up to $56,000, you can earn. Anything above that, $1 for every $3 in earnings is withheld. And then the month you reach your full retirement age, nothing is withheld. And so that is something that people think the money just goes away, right? It's withheld and never given back. But the good thing is Social Security will actually adjust your benefits once you're full retirement age going forward. So they'll obviously adjust your benefits up. You won't get a check saying these are the 4 years of withholdings that we had. I'm going to make you whole. They'll just adjust your benefit up going forward. So early versus delayed filing. So this to me is a great slide because it actually shows you the benefits of waiting and also the drawbacks potentially of collecting it early. So this is the PIA is primary insurance amount. And so in this example, it's age 66, and that's you would get 100% of your primary insurance amount. So for retirement age is 66, I'm going to just use maybe $2,000 as this person's full retirement age benefit. So obviously the full retirement age is anyone born between 1943 and 1954. Age 67 full retirement age is anything 1960 and later. So as you kind of go to the left, you can see if you collect it at 65, you're only getting 93% of that $2,000 or your full retirement age benefit. If you go to 62 and you're collecting it that much earlier, you only get 75%. So on a $2,000 benefit, you're getting $1,500 per month. So, it's a $500 per month difference or $6,000 a year. That really starts to add up, right? If you live into your 90s, that's real money. And so conversely, if you actually wait from 66 to 67 in this example, you get 108% of that $2,000. If you wait all the way until age 70, you get 132%. So that guaranteed 8% increase per year plus cost of living adjustment. So 22 to 23, that cost of living adjustment was 8.7%. So people that waited got that guaranteed 8% plus an 8.7% cost of living adjustment. And then I think for 2024, it was just confirmed recently that it's going to be 3.2%. So, that's on average 10% plus that you get by waiting. This is, it's a choice of a lifetime. I think I just wanted to throw in an example of a married couple, Pat and Kelly. Pat is 66, Kelly's 61. The left, basically the left side, it says the cumulative benefit if both file as soon as possible. So if Kelly files at 62 and Pat files at his full retirement age, which I believe is 66, they get a cumulative. Now there's some average life expectancy estimates in here, 85 for men, 88 for women. with a 2.4% cost of living adjustment. So that is all factored into this. So the cumulative benefit, if they were to file as soon as possible, is $1,456,000. If they actually waited to optimize their benefits, which has Pat collecting at age 70 and Kelly collecting it at full retirement age, is just shy of 1.7 million. So it's about $227,000 of the cumulative benefit loss by filing early. So that's real money, right? I mean, if you look at the average spend, that could be several years worth of people needing, X amount of dollars per year. I know that also typically what's the most expensive item later in life is healthcare costs, right? Are you needing to be in a retirement community? Do you need in-home care? That $227,000 can go really quickly. Can you get a do-over? So if you change your mind, you get a one-time do-over. So I think this can happen. So it can happen as long as you file this form, which is basically a withdrawal of application within 12 months of collecting benefits. It can only happen once. I'm getting some feedback here. Okay, I think we're okay. So where I think this could make sense, right, is if you're planning on retiring, you start collecting Social Security, right, because you need to supplement income, your wages are going away, and then all of a sudden a new opportunity lands in your lap and you say, hey, I don't need this income anymore because I got a new job. Let me actually go ahead and pay back everything. So the downside is if you spent the money, you need other resources to be able to write a check. And then also if your spouse was collecting on your benefit because you began, you need to pay back all of their benefits as well. So maybe it sounds good, but in practicality, it might be harder than you think, but it certainly is a one chance, once in a lifetime opportunity that you can pay everything back and act like it never happened. And then when you go down the road to file for Social Security benefits, it would just be as if it never happened. So individual benefits, you need at least 10 years of work, which is basically 40 credits. So you get 1 credit every quarter, and you need kind of those 10 years minimum, but then your benefit is based off the best 35 years. So as you continue to earn more and more and more, it's going to drop off those early years of maybe lower wages, right, or lower income. I already covered the cost of living adjustment in 2023 is 8.7%. In 2024, I think just got confirmed at 3.2. And then be mindful when running estimates. So 2 comments here. I mean, I think I used to get Social Security estimates in the mail, which is crazy, right? You think about the waste of paper. I'm not collecting benefits for probably 30 plus years. So to me, it's irrelevant. And I think now they stopped doing that, which is good. I can log in to ssa.gov and actually create an account, run an estimate for myself. And if I'm curious what I'm going to be collecting at full retirement age, I can do that. I think for people that are within several years of collecting their benefits and you want to run estimates, I would be mindful that if you're, say, 62 and you're thinking about retiring and your full retirement age is 67, you have that 5-year gap. The system will automatically think that you're going to make what you made last year. So then it plugs it in that you're going to make that in 2024, 2025, 2026, so on and so forth. So I would just be mindful that you plug in a 0 for those years that you're not going to be working up until your full retirement age. So it's more accurate, right? It may or may not adjust your benefits, but I think you don't want to necessarily plug in you're going to earn income when you actually aren't. So spousal benefits, to be able to collect these, you have to be married for at least 1 year and are at least age 62. The other spouse has to have started collecting their individual benefits. You can collect up to 50% of basically their full retirement age benefit, and you can collect reduced benefits as soon or as early as 62. Clearly, that's like a 75% of what the amount should be. And then as of April 30th, 2016, the strategy known as file and suspend was eliminated. So, obviously I've been here for 15 years. I was around when we were implementing the strategy for clients, which was awesome. I mean, it allowed you to basically get to your full retirement age, file and suspend your personal benefits, collect spousal benefits until age 70, and then switch right, switch to your higher benefit at age 70. I mean, it was such a great planning opportunity that a lot of people didn't know about. Obviously, the Social Security Administration did and knew that there was some, I don't know if it's drawbacks or loopholes there, but it was unfortunately a great strategy that is no longer around. Survivor benefit. So you can receive on a deceased spouse benefit if you were married for at least 9 months, you were at least age 60 and have not remarried prior to age 60. And then divorce spousal benefits, if you were married for at least 10 years, the divorced spouse is currently unmarried. So if you're trying to collect, you have to be unmarried. Both are age 62. The ex-spouse does not have to file beyond 2 years after divorce. So if you're trying to collect on your ex-spouse, you have to wait until the end of your divorce is final, at least 2 years. But then your ex-spouse doesn't necessarily have to be collecting. So it's kind of irrelevant to your decision to begin collecting on their record. I think it's obvious why, right? You can't necessarily have an ex-spouse that is not collecting to impact you, right? To kind of do you harm. So that's why that is a thing, and there's no impact. So I know we've had clients sometimes it's like, well, I'm collecting my current, I can switch to the spousal. It's going to be slightly more, but is it really worth it? Am I going to impact their benefit? And the answer is no. What you do on their record has no impact to their personal monthly amount. So these collection strategies are the rules. At the end of the day, it gets complex, and there's really no one size fits all. I think going through all the slides that I had, there's so many different options, right? And there's different breakpoints and break evens, right, that you need to make it to make financial sense. I think we've told this to clients before. If clients could tell us when they're going to die, it makes our job a lot easier. Clearly, that's not how life works. I know some clients want to have one foot in the grave and have their last check bounce. I mean, it's not possible, but we want to try to go through the different scenarios, kind of empower our clients with information to make informed decisions. And I think Social Security is a piece of the overall financial plan. But when you're starting to talk about government pension offset or the windfall elimination, if someone's eligible for a government pension, that is more complex, right? We tend to defer to Social Security experts to make sure that we're giving good advice that is accurate. I think if we have benefit statements, we can run different scenarios and give that as part of the follow-up for this webinar if you guys are interested in that. So we have a slide later in that. How is Social Security taxed? It's based off provisional income. So provisional income is AGI, so wages, pension income, dividends, capital gains, plus tax-exempt interest, so any municipal bond or tax-free bond interest, plus half of your Social Security benefit. So if we just focus on the right side for a married filing jointly scenario, benefits not taxed is anything under $32,000. So again, it's AGI plus tax-exempt interest plus half of Social Security. So if you're married and you have to pick up half of your Social Security income if you're both collecting, anything $44,000 and above, that's 85% taxable. So that's the maximum amount that can be taxed at the federal level. The one kind of benefit California tax code has is they don't tax Social Security. So it's only federally taxable up to 85%, depending on those different income thresholds, and not state taxable. So maybe why a lot of you showed up today is the $1 million question: is Social Security going bankrupt? The short answer is yes, right? We kind of know that. We covered this last year. This is an updated 2022 report. It has the trust fund is basically scheduled to run out of money in 2035. So basically 12 years from now with zero change, right? No changes. 12 years from now, the trust fund that kind of helps fund Social Security is expected to go to zero. So, remember, 80% of benefits come from taxes. So going bankrupt doesn't necessarily mean that your benefits go to zero, right? Can they be impacted? Potentially. But it doesn't necessarily mean you go from, I was going to make $2,000 a month, so I get nothing. So there are potentially, right, some proposals that have been put out. I know Biden a couple of years ago put out a couple proposals as well. And so most of what's been put out has really not suggested cutting benefits for anyone 55 and older. So my guess is, based off of who's on this call today, the majority, I would think, are within 10 to 12 years of collecting Social Security. So my guess is benefits would not impact you directly. Again, that's just the guess. I think, for people like myself and people like Steve, right, we have a lot more years of earning potential to correct course, right? If we were planning on a certain amount and it's going to change, or the full retirement age gets moved back, we have more years to be able to make kind of any necessary changes to make our financial plan a lot healthier. So when you look at what Biden had proposed, it was maybe raising the payroll tax percentage from the current 6.2%, adding a 2% increase on that. And basically that would create the solvency by 75 years, which obviously, I don't know what kind of cap that would involve, but hopefully there would be one. Other proposals or options include raising the limit on the amount of pay that's currently taxed, which is currently for 2023, $160,200. So when this was proposed, what he was talking about was basically creating a donut hole, and up to 160 would be taxed at the 6.2%. No income above that number would be taxed until you got to 400,000, and then anything above 400,000 would be taxed at 6.2% again. But then what was baked into that was basically an inflation adjustment on that 162,000. So the 400,000 was going to stay fixed. The 160 was going to, go up to 175 the next year, and then 200, then 225, to eventually close the donut hole, which means all of the income is taxable, right? Which tends to be pretty punitive. I don't think that was very popular. I don't know who would vote for that, because then you're basically not putting a cap on that. I don't know if we can necessarily tax our way out of the Social Security issues. I think what we've learned recently is, we have a spending problem. So I think that might need to get addressed. Raising the full retirement age from the current age to 67, to me, this is a no-brainer. This makes the most sense. This is an easy fix that may get the least amount of pushback, I guess, because when you go back to the mortality tables, what was happening back in the 1930s, clearly things have changed, right, over the next 90 years, and people are living longer, and nothing's happened to the full retirement age. It just doesn't make sense. So I think that's going to have to get pushed back. Lowering cost of living adjustments, maybe not as popular, and then cutting benefits would be the last option. So how to file. So people I know on this call are like, they're ready, right? They are going to be collecting within the next year or so. So you can do it online. I would always start there. You're dealing with a government agency, so going in person, on the phone, that may not be as, I don't know, maybe it's more time consuming. I would think I would start online. If you can be successful there, great. Then you don't have to worry about it. You can also go in person. If you're local to Santa Clarita, there is a Social Security office on Turney Road. So you can go there, and then on the phone. So you can schedule a phone appointment and basically go through that process and begin collecting benefits. So some key takeaways. Social Security is an important component, but it's hard to sometimes look at it in a silo, right? We tend to look at it as part of the overall financial plan, and how does this decision impact the rest of your life? Do you have other resources, right? Do you have other pension income? Are you currently working? Do you have retirement accounts or brokerage investment accounts to potentially bridge the gap for any spending needs? And it's complex. And so, I mean, me and Steve were actually joking about this prior to the call, is, deferring to professionals, and these two are very complex, right? Social Security and Medicare are very complex, and I know that some clients have said, well, my friend said, right? It's like, my friend said. I hate sometimes with advice coming from friends that they remain nameless, and we're not exactly sure their background. So sometimes it's like, let's just go through the process. Let's make sure that we're reaching out to the right professionals to make an informed decision. And unfortunately, Social Security Administration is not going to be that source for you. They will take direction, kind of give you your options, but they're not really there to do the planning part. I think part of this is not really trying to make the decision yourself, is really relying on your financial advisor. I know that's something that we're taking our clients through this process and helping them weigh their different options. And I think any non-clients that have financial advisors that have this conversation, make sure you're going through this as part of your financial plan. In terms of what we're offering is basically just a complimentary consultation. I think there's two options. Really, we can try to focus more on the Social Security, right? You give us your benefit statements. We can go through the different options. There's different break-even analysis that we can help and give you that information. And then obviously on the option two is more overall financial planning. Social Security would be a part of this. And I think based off the presentation, we know that there's a lot more decisions that go into deciding Social Security, right? And it's not just making it in a vacuum. So typically, you know, they last about 30 minutes just to understand, can we help you? Are we a good fit? Is there value that we can add? And then basically, I think Lauren, I think we're emailing to info@Vance Wealth to start those. And so, Steve, I'll bring you up now. I think, you know, I kind of covered what I wanted to on the Social Security side, and I'll let you take over and go through the Medicare slides.
All right, fantastic. A great job, Jerrod. And I'd like to echo for the folks who maybe have never spoken with you. I highly recommend going through your process to see what it's like to actually financially plan. You shared a wonderful personal story about how you entered the business and how you've flourished in your career. So I'm the guy that has the other story, the family that didn't have a plan. So I'll give you a little background and share, you know, how I became Medicare Man. So when I was in my early 30s and my folks were in their 60s, they were having health issues. My father was legally blind and on dialysis, and my mother had short-term memory loss that eventually became an Alzheimer's diagnosis. So this was something that we were completely, obviously, unprepared for. It was very difficult and painful. For 4 years, I really didn't work full time because I was caregiver, confused son, and power of attorney, trying to manage my parents' finances and also their health needs. So through that extreme level of pain and discomfort, you know, I found my purpose in helping others. And I want to share, you know, if it wasn't for my wife, she actually saved me. Medicare Man would be no man or lost man if she really wouldn't have come in and helped me with my mom. So again, just want to highlight that, you know, my personality type is to protect and educate my clients. Jerrod is the same way. We're going to explain the mechanics to you, and our ultimate goal is really to help you the best to our ability. So now we're going to start to dive into my way of explaining Medicare is to make sure that you understand the mechanics and the key components that you're not going to find through advertisement. So as far as, you know, my service to you, I can help my clients with their Medicare planning all at no cost. Yeah, Jerrod never cuts me a check. You will never write me a check. How it works, when you sign up with a private insurance company, that company pays me for my work, and I provide you lifetime support. So the plans aren't any different if you sign up through an 800 number or have personal guidance. If you folks take away, you know, 3 items today, these are the 3 key questions that you should be asking yourself. And this is part of my process in helping my clients. Number 1, do I need to take Medicare at age 65? And it depends. It depends on whether you're working, retired, or covered under a spouse. Now, once you make that decision, the second key question or decision is, am I going to stay with original Medicare or join an Advantage plan? And it's very important to understand the key difference between the 2 plan types. And then thirdly, which company should I work with? Again, do I need Medicare at 65, original Medicare or Medicare Advantage? Which is best for me, and which company should I select? Now, I need to highlight this type of advertisement. This is Joe Namath, one of the many famous celebrities who's pitching Medicare commercials. Primarily, 90% of the commercials that are out there for Medicare Advantage plans, they're not necessarily bad plans, but how they're marketed really makes it complicated and confusing. And it's gotten so bad that there's been legislation passed that really protects you, the consumer, but it puts me in a position to actually have to start to record our conversations to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. So please do not respond to direct mail. Do not answer a phone call that you did not request, because these are potentially scammers that are trying to gather information from you and neither the Social Security office or Medicare will contact you to ask you for personal information. So please work through a trusted channel like Jerrod, a financial advisor, or myself in helping you with your planning. This is my main slide when it comes to Medicare. This is the best way that I can explain it. You know, we all have seen a coin, and Medicare is a two-sided coin. One side of the coin is the government portion, which represents the 80% on this slide. The 20% comes from private insurance. That right there is my Medicare presentation, folks. 80% government, 20% private insurance. There's some specific details as to, when to apply for each. I'll go through that. But really, 80% government, 20% private insurance. The 80% step is something that you take on your own. The 20% step is what I help you with. So what is Original Medicare? It consists of two letter types. Part A helps to cover your hospital stays. And this is an area of Medicare that you do not have to pay a premium to sign up for, because essentially you've paid it through your working years. So Part A is premium free. Part B is where you actually do have to pay a premium to the government to join Medicare. And Part B covers doctor services and outpatient care. So if you have A and B together, you've done the right thing. You've signed up for Original Medicare. However, Original Medicare on its own is not enough, as you can see, because it only picks up 80% of your bill. Now, as far as Medicare Part B, you're going to pay a premium to the government based on your income. So for folks who started Medicare this year in 2023, there's a 2-year look back period to determine your Medicare premium for this year. So for folks who started this year, you need to pay attention to your 2021 income, because that's going to determine your Medicare premiums moving forward. And 8% of the population is considered a high income earner, which means they're going to end up paying a higher premium to the government. So I'll explain. The standard Medicare Part B premium amount in 2023 is essentially $165. Think of that as your ticket to join the Medicare Boys and Girls Club, as I like to call it. So most folks are going to pay that $165. However, if you're a high income earner, you can pay as much as $560 per month. So if I have a husband and wife who are joining Medicare at the same time, something that comes as a surprise to them is that Medicare is no longer a family plan. You have to pay an individual premium to the government to join Medicare. And again, that's something that's very important to touch on.
Yeah, so I just to add to that, I know that when we're doing planning for clients, this is something that we're paying close attention to, because this is punitive, right, Steve? So if you go $1 over 194,000, you're paying an additional, right? This is, I think it's around an extra $80 per month per person. And that really starts to add up. So, when we're talking about potentially realizing more gains in a year, or doing a Roth conversion, or somehow pushing income up or affecting income, or even conversely giving more, right, trying to bring income down, we're really trying to pay attention to not only the tax brackets, but I think this is sometimes lost, not paying attention to these different IRMA thresholds or Medicare premium thresholds, because it's not like the tax code. If you go $1 over the 22 to 24% bracket, you're only paying $1 at 24%. No, it actually, $1 over is very punitive in this scenario.
Thank you for pointing that out, Jerrod. And yeah, it's a big, folks aren't happy when they receive an IRMA letter. IRMA stands for income related. It stands for income related monthly adjustment amount. Essentially, it's a high income surcharge. So yes, it's wonderful that, again, you plan for these types of items so you're not surprised. So the surcharge applies to Medicare Part B, again, which is hospital and outpatient coverage, but it also applies to Medicare Part D. So for example, if folks sign up for let's say a $12 or $20 drug plan, if they're a high income earner, they're going to pay both the premium for the private insurance plan plus the surcharge to the government. And again, I have a process where my clients fully understand what they can expect to pay as they transition into Medicare.
Hey, Steve.
So yes.
There's one question. So two questions. The first one is, it was asked, is this gross income or adjusted gross income? It's modified adjusted gross income, right?
That's right.
I think it's adjusted gross income plus tax-free interest. And then there are like special life events, right, that happen that I don't know if you know those off the top of your head, but I know that this has come up in communication that we've had. Is we've had clients that have had these life events that happen as like, hey, is this something that I can write Medicare for an exception, right? If you have a certain thing that happens, do you have a couple of those that you can just say, hey, if this is happening, this might be worth writing Medicare of, can I get a like a letter of exception?
Yeah, the two primary, and thank you, Jerrod. The two primary events, life-changing events, would be number one, retirement, right? So I have clients that say, hey, Steve, I'm timing my retirement to when I turn 65 or start Medicare. So as soon as you have that life-changing event, you can raise your hand and fill out a specific form. It's called the SSA-44. I can help you with that form, meaning I can supply that form to you. You can fill it out and or contact the Social Security office or drop it off. But yes, so one is retirement, work reduction, or work stoppage, and the other typically is divorce. So those are the two primary reasons that you absolutely should request a redetermination of your Medicare Part B premiums so that you're not paying more than you have to. But those would be the two primary. And now we're going to dive and spend a little more time discussing the private insurance piece. This is the part that gets complicated because of the marketing and advertisements. But basically, I want you to look at your 20% private insurance options through kind of the typical client profile. So when someone signs up for Original Medicare, remember, you're paying a premium to the government to join the federal health insurance program. When you're on Original Medicare, you actually are part of a network that's called the United States of America. Your network is the US. You can select any provider in the US that takes Medicare. So we're going to focus on this on the orange side here. When you have Original Medicare that covers 80%, you're going to want to add a Medicare supplement plan, also known as a Medigap plan. That picks up the other 20% that Medicare doesn't cover. You'll also need to add a drug plan. But typically, the person or individual that selects this type of model of coverage is someone who has been on a PPO plan for, let's say, decades, or they simply want to have the freedom to choose their own doctor. It's also someone who wants to see predictable costs, and they're comfortable paying higher premiums for that type of medical package, right? So key words here, I'm used to PPO, I want the freedom to choose my own doctor, I don't want any restrictions. That's one option. The alternative is where we see a lot of TV advertisements, and it's known as a Medicare Advantage HMO or Medicare Advantage PPO plan. How does this work? Typically, these plans have a network, right? So let's say someone who's currently on an HMO or has been on an HMO for 20, 30, 40 years, they're comfortable in that environment. So they may want that same type of coverage on Medicare. So you're tied to a network. You can have unpredictable costs because you're going to have basically co-pays and co-insurance. So you're going to think of this as a pay-as-you-go plan, right? Pay as you go. Typically, these plans, well, at least 65% of the Medicare Advantage plans in the US have a zero premium. So that makes it very attractive. Typically, folks who are on Advantage plans don't see the doctor much and also are, let's say, more on a budget. They find themselves more on a budget. We're going to dive into a few more numbers here. So how much does a Medicare supplement cost or Medigap plan cost at age 65? Typically, it's about $150 a month. So keep in mind, whether you stay with Original Medicare or join an Advantage plan, you still have to pay your premium to the government to be in the system. So you pay $165, for example, to the government. You would pay $150 for a Medicare supplement plan. Typically, these plans increase about 5 to 10% a year. That's normal. There's a small deductible that folks pay on Medicare. It's only $226. But when someone selects what's known as the Medicare Plan G, the highest level of Medigap coverage, you actually will never have to pay a copay, a coinsurance, or receive a surprise bill in the mail. So a lot of folks are like, Steve, that sounds way too good to be true. That's the power of the Medicare system, right? 80% government, 20% private insurance. It's not free, right? You're paying a premium to the government and you're also paying a premium to the private insurance plan. But that gives you an example of what the cost would look like for original Medicare plus a Medicare supplement plan. Now, switching over to an Advantage plan, you're again back into a network, but as I mentioned, 65% of these plans have a zero premium. They're typically low or no deductible, but you will have co-payments up to the plan's limit. The government has set a limit this year in 2023 of $8,300. So that number represents a worst case scenario out-of-pocket cost to you. So if I have a husband and wife who are both on these plans, then that amount is, it's an individual amount. So potentially $16,000. Jerrod, I'm going to pause here. Generally, I have some questions that folks may have about these plans. Do we have any questions at this point?
I am not seeing anything specifically around these items, these last few slides.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll keep going.
Okay. But I'll let you know if any pop up. And again, as a reminder, if you guys have questions, you can write it in the Q&A box. And if we can address it, we will.
Okay, and actually one key point before I move on here. People will ask, Steve, what's the catch? What should I look out for? So this is what you're not going to find on TV advertisements. What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst case scenario if someone signs up for original Medicare and a supplement plan? The worst case scenario is you're simply going to pay a monthly premium to the government and to the private insurance plan, and these plans increase. That's your worst case scenario. You're not going to have any co-pays or co-insurance or surprise bills, but it's not free. You have to pay for it. Under the Advantage model, what's the worst case scenario? I'd say there's two, and actually three. Number one, you may reach a high out-of-pocket, your high out-of-pocket max, right? You may reach that $8,300. The second component is that these Medicare Advantage contracts are 12-month contracts with providers. So I'll give you a real-life example. I'm based in San Diego, and one of the top 4 medical groups here in San Diego sent notices to 31,000 San Diegans who are on Advantage plans. And they told them that as of January 1, 2024, they're no longer accepting any Medicare HMO plans, right? So 31,000 San Diegans are scrambling, trying to figure out how they're going to find a new medical group. That's the second. And then third, I want to go back to kind of highlight my mother's experience. My mom was on an HMO plan, and then she had an Alzheimer's diagnosis. I panicked. I wanted to get a second, third, and fourth opinion. And that's when I learned that once you have a serious diagnosis on an HMO plan, you will never be eligible for a Medicare supplement plan in the future. So that's something that folks need to pay attention to. So if I'm meeting with a client who has a pre-existing health issue or a concern for a health issue down the road, I make sure that they fully understand for the plan that they're signing up for.
So Steve, ask and you shall receive.
Yes, sir.
We have a few questions. If you want to go back one slide, I think the question has to do with, it says health underwriting needed. I think it may be talking about the Advantage HMO plans, because I can see on the original Medicare, it says health underwriting needed. So does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, so the health underwriting is needed if you miss your initial 6-month window when you turn 65 or join Medicare. So when you first enter the Medicare system, by law, private insurance companies cannot ask you to fill out or answer health-related underwriting questions. So again, I'm normally communicating with clients a full year before they need Medicare. So I'm going through my process of thoroughly understanding their needs to make sure that they don't make a critical mistake.
And what about prescriptions on the Advantage HMO?
Yeah, so when you sign up for an HMO plan, the drug plan is bundled into your HMO contract or PPO contract. And when you go through the process of analyzing, what is the best HMO plan for me, You need to identify, I call them the 3Ds, your doctors. You want to make sure your doctors accept that plan. You want to make sure your drugs are covered. And also I call it desirability. How desirable is that plan for you based off of your preferences and lifestyle? So think of it this way, Jerrod, when you sign up for one HMO plan, you have one drug plan that's kind of bundled into that plan. When you opt for a Medicare supplement plan with a standalone drug plan, you actually now have the option to select between 25 to 30 different drug plans. So you have a comparison that you can kind of shop.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have
more choices.
More choices, right? When it's bundled on the HMO.
And then maybe last question here. How does the original Medicare with supplemental coverage compare to Medicare Advantage PPO?
Yeah, so with my analysis, I have found that the PPO plans, again, you're going to have in-network and out-of-network maximum out-of-pocket costs that you have to understand exist. I'm going to kind of rephrase the question a little differently. If folks want to know, Steve, what type of Medicare package or coverage gives me the maximum coverage at the lowest cost? It's going to be original Medicare with the Medicare supplement plan. Below that, you would have, you would have a Medicare Advantage PPO plan, which gives you in-network, out-of-network option. And then the third tier is an HMO, right? But in terms of what gives you the most freedom and reduces your out-of-pocket spending, number one would be original Medicare with the supplement plan. Depending on your county, you may have a PPO plan that's $50 or $75 a month, but now you really have to pay attention to the annual out-of-pocket maximum under these plans. And that's county specific and case by case.
And just based off like your conversation over the last two slides, I mean, it's complex, right? There's a lot of different options. If you're just reading it on a pamphlet or online, it gets confusing. So like, I'm the type of person to actually need something like walk me through, let me talk to a human, right? Show me the different scenarios, but what if scenarios. So I know that that's something that you can actually walk through with people that are interested, is like, walk me through this. Give me the side-by-side comparison.
And I'm the type of guy, Jerrod, that says, okay, got it. I heard you. But now tell me the truth. Like,
yeah.
Tell me the behind the scenes. Tell me what no one else is telling me.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate. And for folks that like really want to dive into the details and read up on this, the Medicare New Handbook is an awesome book. It's 119 pages. Grab your popcorn and a couple Pop-Tarts, and you can thumb through it, but it's 119 pages. So again, if you want to dive in and read through that, it's a good material, but I wouldn't really focus a lot on the direct mail pieces that you're receiving, because they're not giving you the full picture.
Yeah, and like you said, you need the truth, because otherwise how can you give appropriate advice if you don't actually know what you're trying to solve for?
Yeah, no, it's I'm pretty thorough in my approach. So my batting average is pretty good because I'm actually having real life conversations with clients, right? Really getting to understand them. So do we have any more questions here?
We have the question that came in yesterday that I think was re-asked. I think you might have that noted on your end. So you can either answer that now, or we can wait till the end to answer that.
Yeah, I'll answer now. The question that came in yesterday was, I turned 65 in September of this year. When do I have to renew my Medicare Part A and Part B with the government? And the answer is, when you register for Medicare Part A and Part B with the government, you only have to do that one time. It automatically renews. You don't have to do anything. Now, the folks that get into trouble are the folks that say, hey, I forgot to pay my Medicare premium. So if you forget to pay your Medicare bill, the government will drop you. But outside of that, you don't have to worry about re-enrolling. It's automatically done for you. You don't have to renew each year.
Just make sure you're making your bill payments.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. We'll let you go on.
All right. Thank you. So a big question, or a question that I get often, is, Steve, I'm turning 65, but I'm still working. I'm hearing that I need to do something, that I don't need to do something. How does it work? So here it is, folks. If you are turning 65 and you're working for an employer that has 20 or more employees, the key is 20 or more, you have the option to delay Medicare and keep your group coverage, or drop your group coverage and join Medicare. And basically what I help my clients work through is an analysis to find out what brings you the most value and what's most cost effective, right? If your group plan is way more expensive than Medicare, I'll point that out to you. If your group plan is way better than Medicare, I'll point that out to you. But we need to go through the numbers, make sure that your group plan provides you with the medical access that you need. And again, bottom line, let's just maximize your coverage and minimize your cost. So I have a rule of thumb, at least that should trigger kind of a plan review. If folks are continuing to work and have health insurance premiums that are greater than $300, that's, it's a signal, let's have a conversation. If you have an annual out-of-pocket maximum that's over $4,000, let's have a conversation. If through your employer coverage, you're unhappy with your doctor network, let's have a conversation. And now what happens if you're turning 65 and work for an employer that has 19 or less employees? You no longer have an option. You have to sign up for Medicare. So there it is, folks. 20 or more, signing up for Medicare is optional. 19 or less, you must sign up for Medicare. Now, this is also key as far as what Medicare was not designed to cover. And I'll start off with the most costly, and that's long-term care insurance. I'm sorry, long-term care. So typically, folks that plan for this will purchase long-term care insurance, but it's definitely something that we should all plan for. Dental care, vision, hearing aids, foreign travel, cosmetic surgery, these are also not covered by original Medicare. You may see TV advertisements that say, hey, free dental, free vision, free hearing aids, or a reduction on hearing aids. And that sort of language or marketing is coming from private insurance Medicare plans, Medicare Advantage plans, typically HMO or PPO. But even if folks are, see that kind of shiny carrot, understand that dental, vision, and hearing, it's going to be limited coverage, not comprehensive. So as I mentioned, I have a formal Medicare planning process. It's a 2-appointment process. I'm typically having a conversation with folks when they turn 64, whether you're working or retired or covered under a spouse. I help with plan recommendations and enrollment windows. And as I mentioned, there's no cost to work with me. I'm an independent health insurance broker. You'll never hear me pitch an insurance company. It's critical that you understand the mechanics of how these Medicare plans work. And once I help you, I'm with you for lifetime. So I offer lifetime support in a positive way. We're attached at the hip. And for folks that would like to get in touch with me, my website is helpmemedicareman.com, and you can click to schedule an appointment, and they're typically 2 30-minute appointments.
So Steve, there's a question that came in. If they're turning 65 and working with insurance, I do not have to apply for Medicare. I thought you had to apply regardless of working status.
Yeah, great question. And it's normal. It's a normal question. The key is, as long as you work for an employer that has 20 or more employees, it's kind of backwards, where you don't have to let the Social Security office know. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sign up for Medicare Part A and Part B. I do have some folks that say, hey, Steve, Part A doesn't cost me anything. I'm going to go ahead and just sign up for Part A and get myself in the system. That's fine. But you have to be cautious of Medicare Part B, because as soon as you turn that on, you have to start paying a premium to the government.
And can you cover when open enrollment is again?
Yeah, so for folks who are already on Medicare, right? So people who are on Medicare and would like to review their plan options, right? We're actually in the annual enrollment period, which is October 15th through December 7th. This is where you can make plan changes to your Medicare plan. But this is for existing Medicare beneficiaries. People often ask, well, Steve, my birthday is January, March. They'll select any month. They'll say, do I have to sign up during a certain time? Well, naturally, we have birthdays every day of the year, right? But you have a 7-month window to sign up for Medicare. It's 3 months before your birth month. your birth month, and then the 3 months following. But what gets murky is whether or not you're working, retired, or covered under a spouse, and whether you need Medicare at all. So this is why I mentioned, let's have a conversation early. Occasionally I'll get a phone call from someone that says, hey, I was referred to you by a friend. Great. When do you turn 65? Tomorrow. Like tomorrow. So as you can see, that puts a lot of pressure on you and on me, but this is why it's really healthy to have a conversation, a year out, maybe 6 to 9 months out, but I prefer a year.
And maybe one more for you, Steve. Can you explain what happens if a Medicare recipient needs health or medical care during foreign travel?
Yeah, depending on the plan that folks sign up for, my recommendation is always this: to purchase travel medical insurance. That will give you maximum protection. Under Medicare supplement plans, you're given a $50,000 lifetime maximum coverage when you're traveling abroad. Medicare Advantage plans have a little different language where they'll say that they'll cover you for emergency situations for international travel. I've read stories on how people are in tough positions to have guaranteed payment before medical services are offered. This is where travel medical insurance just is, I think, provides a more well-rounded package. So my recommendation is that, because the original Medicare system was designed to cover us domestically, not when we traveled abroad.
Thanks for that. So I think there was one more question. You covered, I think, what you wanted to on this, right? Your offer for people that were interested?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was one other question on the Social Security side that said, what happens if the highest paid spouse waits or intends to wait till 70 to take their Social Security benefit and then passes away prior to 70? Does the spouse get the 50% spousal benefit? So they actually would be able to get, remember, the spousal benefit is 50% of your spouse's benefit at full retirement age. If they, let's say they wanted to wait till 70 and they pass away at 68, you would be entitled to that higher benefit, assuming that it was higher than either your personal benefit or maybe the spousal benefit that you were collecting previously. So hopefully that answers the question. They didn't need to be collecting it per se, but you would have benefited from a higher benefit if it was beyond full retirement age. So I think that's it for questions. I just wanted to make sure that we touched on the next webinar, which is Wednesday, November 8th. That's going to be given by our president, John Vance. I think more information is going to be coming out over the next several weeks on what the topic is going to be. And then again, we're doing a 30-minute complimentary consultation. You can scan this QR code to schedule an appointment or book through our website. You can also email Lauren Fox, which was sending out the invites to this webinar as well, if you wanted to schedule through her. And then Steve's, just remind us of your email again, and then how to go about scheduling time with you. And then I think there's probably a couple forms that they need to sign just to set the stage prior to scheduling time with you.
Yes, my website is helpmemedicareman.com. That's helpmemedicareman.com. And that's the best way. If folks can go on the website and book an appointment using my online calendar, that secures a time slot that works best for them.
Perfect. So if there's any questions that we didn't get to, or that you guys have after, it's like, oh, I forgot to ask this, right? You can email info@VanceWealth, and I'll either field that myself, or I'll send that on to Steve if it's more Medicare related. And we are just over an hour. We wanted to be respectful of that 60-minute time frame. I think we did that last year. We're at 61 minutes. So Steve, again, thanks so much for your time. I really enjoy this presentation because it is so intertwined, and really like having your expertise on this call. So thanks again, and good seeing you.
Good seeing you. It takes a village, Jerrod.
It does. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.